Good afternoon. Welcome to another edition of the EquinEdge Weekend Stakes Preview Show. We got you covered all this weekend, starting tomorrow and headed through the weekend, ending up with the Remington Park Oaks and Derby on Sunday. But lots of action, lots of coverage. I'm your host, Justin. Got my buddy Oldy here. How you doing, buddy?
Doing pretty good. As I mentioned to you, I got in I was lucky enough to get called in the Cubs ticket lottery for the wild card round. So going Tuesday and Wednesday to times TBD as long as they don't blow home field advantage in the first round.
Yes. I'm rooting for you. I'm rooting for the Mariners, of course, but I root for you too in the Cubs. And dude, I was at that game last night, and Cal just keeps going. Hit 60.
Yeah.
Mariners keep going. Won 16 of 17. At the moment, are having a hard time being stopped. Playing the Rockies, play the Dodgers this weekend to end the season. But it's been a lot of fun. Thanks everybody for being here. We're going to jump right in because I'm going to the Mariners game in a little while. But, Oldy, we're going to start at the Big A, also known as Belmont at the Big A, formerly known as Aqueduct. The Grade 2 Beldame Stakes, short field randomized shows up here,
Yeah.
Oldy. Let's watch the race, Sim. Majestic Oops, Gun Song, Margie's Intention, big morning line angle with randomized likely going to be the favorite.
Didn't really understand that morning line all that much.
On randomized or on Margie's Intention?
No, on randomized.
Yeah, I'm with you. There is some other speed here, right? So I wondered if randomized would really get out there and win. I mean, I think only mainly probably just because randomized is coming from these tougher races. That was my assumption, right? I mean, has been running constantly in 80s, other than there at Monmouth Park was in a 78. But what do you think? Where'd you land here?
Yeah, I mean, randomized obviously could win. I decided to try to beat her here. I like Margie's Intentions. Might be an improving horse. Second off the layoff for Brad Cox. Shortens up here to 9 furlongs. Yeah, you have that morning line angle there as well. I thought there might be a lot of pace with Gun Song and randomized on the front end, as well as I think Majestic Oops has speed as well.
Yeah.
So that was my thought.
Yeah, you and I actually, we saw this very similar. And Scrat said, "Go Jays, Oldie." Scrat, your Jays they've lost a couple in a row, if I remember correctly. My hope is the Mariners might catch them. Go ahead, Oldie.
No, I mean, I think the Yankees. The problem, the Yankees may catch them because the Yankees had the pleasure of playing the White Sox for a few days.
I know.
And people learn that it's different on the South Side. They don't dive for balls that might be easily catchable if you dove.
No, I agree with you, Oldie. I thought maybe you could try to upset randomized with Margie's Intention. I put Margie's Intention on top, just as you did. I did put randomized second, but I thought maybe you could try to beat her. I know randomized coming from so much tougher, Oldie, but to your point, I think there's some other speed here, and we saw randomized stop last out, and I think she really needs a comfortable lead, and if she doesn't get it, she stops. And I'm with you. Brad Cox second off the layoff. They cut back. I mean, formerly she went down at Fairgrounds. She was with Brenna Walsh, and I love seeing her jump over to the Cox barn, Oldie, because Brad always just does so well. I thought you could toss the Delaware Oaks, here 2 back. I mean, just didn't run well at all there. Second time Cox, and then improved here last out, right? In Alabama going 10 furlongs. So maybe get an upset, maybe get a price. So I was 2-5. Where'd you go for your second and third pick?
I went to Gun Song, the Scotty Long shot there for my second pick. I've fallen for Gunsong many times. I wasn't going to let myself put Gunsong in first because of that. But, I think Gunsong needs to be on or near the lead. And, there's a possibility that Gunsong wins the break here and gets the lead. And then what happens with randomized, And,
Yeah.
Gunsong has some back class. It's about a year from a really good effort in the cotillion against Torpedo Anna,
Yeah.
and that we've seen what randomized can do against Torpedo Anna as well. And I
Hmm.
don't really think the best of Gunsong is that much different than the best of randomized.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if she gets to the front, right, she could be dangerous, Oldie. I'm just hoping we get a little bit of a speed duel and we get a good price on Margie's intention, honestly. So, and then I saw you had randomized third, right? So
Yeah.
I was 2-5. We're both on Margie's intention. Nice EE morning line angle. Love having that there. 5-2 versus 6-1. Maybe we get a good price. We'll have to see. All right,
Well, let's just
Oldie.
mention also that the morning line on the 4 makes no sense.
Yeah, Majestic. Oops, 2-1. I'm with you. David does such a good job at probably the best U.S. morning line odds maker. Oldie, to be honest, David Argona does such a great job. But I was
Yeah.
with you. I saw that at 2-1, and it's almost like kind of mixed up Margie's intention and Majestic. Oops, but for some reason, that's the 4 at a really short price. All right, Oldie, we're gonna go. That's the only one tomorrow at Aqueduct. There's actually a stakes race over at Gulfstream Park that we're gonna cover tomorrow as well. But I'm 2-5 here in the Belle Dame. You are 2-3-5. I'm gonna move to the next race, but you're gonna talk about the wonderful Keeneland promo we have going on.
Yeah. So EquinEdge is not giving away, but a promotion for the Keeneland meet where for $7.95, that's right, just $7.95, not $7.95 a day, but $7.95, you get EquinEdge for the entire Keeneland meet. There's a special page for it. It's 91% off. It's about 42 cents a day. And you're not just getting a stripped down features either. You're getting the entire EquinEdge. You'll get Jake, our Kentucky handicappers notes as well that are on the horses. You'll get the race sim. You'll get the whole EquinEdge package, and that's $7.95, and it will be available till the start of the meet. And let me mention, we will have Jim Goodman on the stretch run starting at 3:45 at the beginning of the show, 3:45 Eastern on Saturday. So really looking forward to catching up with Jim and finding out what's new at Keeneland as well.
Yeah, Scott, it's an outstanding deal, Oldie. I saw Jeff Soto, longtime EquinEdge community member, calculated out. It's going to be about 6 cents per race for the whole meet. So you can't find anything for 50 cents or 6 cents. Let alone you get the whole thing, or these 17 race days for $7.95. Incredible deal if you've never tried EquinEdge. All right, buddy, let's keep going. Gulfstream Park race 8 tomorrow. The Hallandale Beach Stakes. Let's watch the race sim. Tessellate and Willow Case faced each other last out in a stakes race, and Vita Mia, the newcomer, also shows up here. Tessellate ran only a really strange race
Yeah.
last time. Was actually like on the lead and then like decided to try to rate, and that didn't work. But probably going to be much forwardly placed. Also, Edgar Zayas jumps aboard tomorrow on Tessellate versus Wilmer Vasquez. So big jockey upgrade. Edgar leading the Sunshine meet with by one win over Miguel Vasquez. But what do you think here?
I thought it was a 2-horse race for the most part between between the 5 Willowcase and the 2 Dakota's Little Arthur, who, I thought, I think just has a look here, the Scotty Longshot. But I went with Willowcase on top. Yeah, you could make an argument for Tessellate as well. Lightly raced. Maybe
Yeah.
didn't like the slop, but you might be getting slop again tomorrow.
I know, man. It rains every day there. I have it on my phone and I get like 5 alerts a day. It's, some thunderstorm rolling through. But yeah, I ended up putting Willowcase second, Oldie. I think for Miguet, Ramon, he got a nice horse, and Reyes rides here, rode last out, and ended up kind of stalking off the pace. I ended up putting Tessellate on top, Edgar jumps on for Safi. Obviously, he's one of Safi's go-tos and predominant go-to for the most part. Wilfred Vasquez had been riding, and doesn't get the mount, gets taken off. I'm not sure what happened in this race last out. You'll see here, 4 wide re-rallied, was up near the front, as broke just outstanding, and then he took back. So I think, this time Edgar going to have this horse forwardly placed right off the cheap speed or on the lead, Oldie, and I think it's going to be tough. And yeah, maybe gets back to a better track, but to me, it was just a really strange ride. I think it's a nice horse. I'd forgive the last out effort versus Willowcase. I think Willowcase is going to take a lot of money, but I'm going to try to beat with the 3. But Willowcase a player, that's my second pick. And you do you want to talk about the 2 a little bit? You mentioned Dakota's Little how do you pronounce that? Hour? Yeah.
Or I think. So ran in that same race with Tessellate and Willowcase. From watching the replay, I think this one might want the added distance, and I have questions about Tessellate and Willowcase on that, because they both need to be up on the lead. And I think maybe Dakota's will appreciate the added distance here. And that might be what gets her over the top against the other 2, Willowcase and Tessellate here.
All right. And then my third pick was actually Vita Mia. I mean, for De La Cerda off the maiden win, on the lead. I think there are 2, maybe somebody can sit the trip here. The 5 is not going to be on the lead. So, I think the 1's cheap. It's probably the 3 and 6 up here. Maybe the 1 shows enough speed to cause some havoc, but I don't think so. I thought that, the 3 had a big look up front. And then again, I think Willowcase. So, and Vita Mia would be my third pick if this horse fits in the mix. Going to be a short price. Probably not the favorite. I would guess Tessellate ends up being the favorite. But going to be a good race, even though Vita Mia is the morning line favorite. All right. I am 3, 5, 6 down below. You are 5, 2, 3. Only 2 tomorrow on Friday, Oldie. So we're going to huge day of racing on Saturday, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we're going to be all over the country, but we're going to start first in New York with some Breeders' Cup winning your in races, correct?
I believe so, yes. And starting with the Joe Hirsch Turf Classic, where you have defending Breeders' Cup turf champion Rebels Romance showing up.
Yeah, in my perspective, and I'll let you talk about Rebels Romance, but I think he's going to be tough. But you can see on the race sim and the win percent, it does give some others a shot here. We'll eventually get to the end of the race sim, which ultimately is won by that defending champ, Rebels Romance. There's some others right there, but Rebels Romance will be very, very nice. What do you think?
This was a confidence play for me. Rebels Romance is just better than these horses. Coming off a grade 1, another grade 1 win, had a grade 2 win at Ascot in June. He's been facing the best. Look at that 90 at Ascot.
Yeah, I
He's
know.
been facing the best distance horses on turf in the world, not the marathon ones, but the distance ones.
Yeah.
Already faced Farbridge in the Breeders' Cup turf and won easily there, or not won easily, but beat Farbridge easily. So
Mm-hmm.
Farbridge, where either Rebels Romance has to be not as good, or Farbridge has to be way better. Um, or somebody's going to have to improve. I thought maybe maybe it's an Appleby exacta here, maybe it's a 3-1 exacta here, but it ain't going to pay much.
Yeah, I mean, Rebels Romance did look tough. I agree with you. That's where I went on top. If underneath I was redistricting, if anybody can upset, it would be here. But I'm not sure I see it. I would agree with you. Rebels Romance looks really, really tough versus this group. You look at a horse like redistricting, it's just burned money, Oldie, versus kind of easier. It has won 2 recent races and does get the stretch out, which was mainly why I thought the two might run a good race. Getting out to 12 furlongs for Chad and Pratt. Flavian going to probably give this horse a good trip, but I'm with you. I see this more as 3-2 probably cold, but yeah. All right,
Right.
we're gonna keep going. We're gonna go to the 6th, the next, but we flip over to the dirt, the Woodward Stakes for 300,000. Post time locked. Gould's Gold. Awesome air in the long shot on the inside. And Phileas Fogg, Oldie, 2-1, second favorite. Gonna show speed here. I thought there was other speed though, for me, honestly. Like I
Yeah.
didn't see this horse wiring the field or anything. I think the 6 gonna have pressure. To me, it looked like somebody gonna come off the pace. The race sim has locked sitting the trip. Post time also there, and looks like the 5 might be closing a little bit. Becomes 7-5. But what do you think?
I was all over Locked here. I know Phileas Fogg beat Locked 2 back, um, but had a lone clear lead there, and I don't see that happening here.
Yes.
And I think maybe 9 furlongs might be more up Lock's alley too. So I'm gonna go Locked here over Phileas Fogg.
Yeah, no, I agree, Oldie. That race 2 back in the Suburban, that was a 76, and Locke's only other losses, obviously, before that were in the Alashiba in 84 at Churchill. Hit the board in 9 of 10, and you look at the 6, I mean, obviously a nice horse, Oldie. They get back to 9 furlongs, and they have run well at 9, but most of those were easier races. I think to your point, 2 back, I do think Locked can turn the table on Phileas Fogg. It's just they're not getting as easy of a lead here, in my opinion, with other speed on the inside, and there's quite a bit of it, Oldie.
Yeah.
So I thought that the 6 isn't the favorite, actually, Locked is, but I didn't really like the 6 at all just because of that other speed. But I'm with you on top. I had Locked. Where did you go underneath?
I went with Post Time. And I went with Phileas Fogg and then Post Time in third.
Okay, yeah, I would just be 7-2 here, and mainly only because when I looked a lot at post time for Brittany Russell, Sheldon Rides, just coming from easier though. In all these
Yeah.
races that tried to race in graded stakes recently has not won. Does have a grade 2 and a grade 3 win back in 2024 versus similar company. So if anybody's going to upset Lock, to me, Oldie, it would be post time for whatever reason. But I like the 7-2 here, and not that maybe when the speed can't hold on, but Post time's a nice horse and has won these races by
Yes.
17, 3.5 lengths, 13 lengths. So definitely tries to continually find the right spot when they jump into graded stakes. And I think here is definitely one of the easier recent graded stakes versus the Whitney. And obviously the Cigar and the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, very tough. And you look back here in the Blame at that level and just missed running third. And, that was, I think that in a way that's a tough race. This horse fits here, but I saw it 7-2. And you have it 7-6-2 in the Woodward Stakes.
Yeah.
That's Saturday. Belmont at the Big A.
And post time's the favorite on the morning line.
Yes, even money, Oldie. Like we're 5-2 on lock. So I know it's gonna. I think it's gonna be interesting. What price that horse goes off at. Because the 6 will take some amount of action, and obviously the 7-2 gonna take action. So yeah, no, it's even money there, which is incredible. So
1-1.
yeah, yes. All right, we're skipping race 7. That's a maiden. We're going to jump to the next stakes race, Oldie, the Grade 2 Gallant Bloom Stakes. Fillies and mares, 3 and up, sprinting 6.5 at the Big A. One horse, Our Disaster, going to have a lot of speed here. Sunday Girl, probably for Katie Davis, going to sit a good trip, Oldie. The 8, I think, might too, but I think the 9 getting back on the dirt here is a good move, and I think will sit a good trip. Our Disaster does run really well on the race sim, and a horse like Sterling Silver closes, but the one wins by over 2 lengths on the race sim. But what do you think?
So I'll be calling this the Boom Stakes if I'm right. I put Sunday Girl, the 9 horse, on top for Katie. On the return to the dirt, I like that the horse has speed, but is tactical, can rate.
Yes.
I get that Our Disaster's been facing better and, beat better last time out, but that was an allowance group as well. This is a Grade 2, and maybe the extra half furlong might be too much for this horse too. I think that's a 6 furlong horse.
The who's the 6 furlong horse?
The one, Our Disaster.
Oh, okay. Well, I put the one on top, so let's talk about that. I mean, I can see that, right? I mean, has all these wins at 6, had only 2 races at 6.5, has hit the board in all 11 races though for Safi. Jose here in New York to ride. I mean, she's just coming from so much tougher, Oldie. That was in the slop last out in a 78, one easy back here in a 72. So she has talent, and she ran so well in the slop there at Saratoga. So I don't know. I could see it. I think she'll be okay at 6.5, but I could see it. She's gonna be a really short price, but she does look to be the speed of the speed. I mean, she gets a fairly easy lead and just takes them all the way on the race sim. But yeah. And I actually had Sunday Girl second, so I like that as your top pick, Oldie. You're going to be a great price. And to your point, the turf effort, gets back to the dirt and should set a really good outside stalking pace right off the speed. So I like your top pick, but I had second. Where'd you go underneath?
So I had Our Disaster second because I think probably hangs on for a piece. And then Impel was the other spot that I went. I think Impel's going to show more speed than the last 2 times out. That there are races that Impel's been on the lead.
Yeah.
At Keeneland, at Churchill. And, I think Cox won't let this one get away.
Mm-hmm.
As well as Chad's got a rabbit here. But I think Impel could rate and could get a piece here as well in second or third.
Yeah. I went underneath to the 5. Sterling Silver, not a strong pick, but if this thing falls apart, maybe his closing has shown the ability to come off the pace, but more probably underneath for me. I did like your 9, but I was 195, and you are 9, 1, and 2 Impel to Scotty Longshot. Yes. All right,
So,
we're gonna keep rolling. Race 9, the Vosburg at the Big A, 200,000 only, a grade 3. They're sprinting 7. I thought this was a little bit of a tough race, Oldy, mainly
yeah,
because the horse that, Crazy Mason has no speed. so it's so crazy to see that. I mean, the horse just goes backwards 6 lengths, right, for the first probably 20, 30 seconds of the race. And then it's absolutely storming home on the race sim. 8 horse Patriot Spirit up front, the long shot, as well as, probably going to be a good price, wins the race sim. But what do you think?
yeah. So again, I didn't really like the favorite here. I ended up on the 2 Nash for Brad Cox here with Pratt aboard. You have an E morning line angle. Um, this horse ran against Better in the Vanderbilt and did win last time it faced a similar group by SOR uh, at Churchill, and had another decent effort against similar before that. Gets a little bit of a freshening here for Cox, that he's almost 30% off the layoff. I thought Nash had a big look here.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I had Nash second. I ended up putting Scotland on top, the top pick. Um, I do think this is a bit of a competitive race, though. But yeah, Baby Yoda in here and Super Chow too. But I think with the going back here, I do think there's some speed up front, Oldie, and I thought that whether it's Nash or Scotland might sit the trip. I ended up putting Scotland on top. You can see on the race sims right there behind the 8 horse, but I thought, they raced at 7 in both those Saratoga efforts, Oldie, and that was a great race last out in the four-go, but came up short in the 82, but obviously have been improving. Hit the board in 11 to 15 for Mr. Mott. Third off the layoff. Should be fit. Should be ready to go. And again, I think there's some pace to chase up front. So,
Yeah, so
where did you go ahead?
I had Scotland in second, so as well. So I saw it similarly.
And then where'd you go for your third pick?
I went to the Scotty Longshot Patriot Spirit, who's the top win percentage, and top win percentage, and Scotty Longshot wins about 20% of the time.
Yeah, no, yeah, I could see that. Not that. And I'd be curious on your thoughts. I was 129, you're 218, so we saw it again, very similar. Um, I just don't know if Crazy Mason gonna get the pace set up, Oldie. I can't really ever take horses like this, but this horse obviously fits. I mean, these were tough races here,
Yeah.
and won the Carter, the Grade 2 at Aqueduct, going 7 or the Big A, also known as Belmont at the Big A, but and then these were just tougher. So I mean, there is pace here, Oldie. So maybe there's enough pace, but I wasn't confident enough to put on top. Does get back to Grade 3 company. Had recently been facing both Grade 1 and the Bing Crosby at Del Mar, and then the four-go at Saratoga. So, does find an easier spot for Manny and Sacco, but they're not going to win often because got to have a really big pace setup. So
Yeah.
I was 129, and you are 218. All right, we got that's the last one at the Big A for Saturday. We are gonna jump over to Churchill Downs on Saturday. They got a few stakes races. Looks like, if I remember, 2 of them.
Yep.
The first, the Ack Grade 3, 400,000 for the boys. Most wanted going to be a short price, big win percent. Going to show speed out of the gate. The race sim has this horse getting a fairly easy lead there at the second call, lead by a length, and looks to try to slow it down, maybe set a little bit of softer fractions after an easy lead. Maybe somebody can come, but at the top of the stretch, 7 and 8, pretty far back. one gonna hold on the race sim and win gate to wire. What do you think?
Yeah, so I thought that I really wanted to beat Most Wanted. I just couldn't find a way to do it.
Yeah. No, I didn't see it. You and I actually saw this race identical. Um,
Yeah,
I'm not sure how the. I mean, you look oldie though. I mean, 1 to 74 allowance for Cox by 4 lengths. I mean, this was a much tougher race in the forego. We were just talking about that on the lead from the one post, got pressure right, dueled, and weakened late. I don't see that happening here though. I mean, I know the 4 on the race
right.
sim might show some speed, but I don't know. I thought that with Irad and Cox, you can see here, Irad gets aboard Oldie, and you and I talked about this. Irad taking taking himself and everybody to Kentucky this time, not staying in New York, but riding for Brad Cox now, right? And Florent Giroux doesn't get them
Yeah,
out here. Irad does that, and you obviously got to like that, right? For Gary and Mary West, a nice homebred. I just thought he looked tough and would take him gate to wire.
agreed. There just
And
there
then
wasn't somebody
where'd
here.
you go underneath?
So we saw this exactly the same. So I went with the two will take it in second.
Yeah,
His 1-2 in a row for Dallas Stewart. I haven't seen who's been named to take Brian Hernandez Jr.'s place because of that horrible fall. But this seems to be an improving type. Does need a setup. I have a note on the 5:22:25 race of perfect setup in a race where nobody could rate there on that horse. But I think can get a piece underneath. And they're just Tumbarumba. I thought was too cheap
yeah,
here and not in good form. So I just thought we'll take it in
yeah,
second. Made perfect sense.
yeah, yeah. I'm with you. I think most wine gonna be tough here at Churchill. All right, we're gonna keep cruising. They got 2 on Saturday. We'll jump to race number 10, the Grade 2 Lucas Classic Stakes. Mystic Dan shows up here. Oldie hit show, disarm, banishing, coming off that church or Charlestown Classic win recently. Prince of Power going to be the speed. Willie D's might show some speed inside, and Mystic Dan, Oldie, a few GSR horses increasing here, but at the stretch, Mystic Dan looks to take over. Hit show running a big race as well as disarm, but Mystic Dan wins the race sim. What do you think here?
So I went against Mystic Dan here, and I went for Hit Show.
Yeah,
Uh,
Oldie, I really like this play. Go and Florent does ride here for Brad Cox, right? And Florent has
yeah,
been aboard, but talk to me about his show.
I mean, I just think Hit Show did win the Dubai Classic, and I feel like Hit Show is that win against Forever Young is better than anything that you know. I guess Mystic Dan beat Forever Young as well, but the I just don't like the form on Mystic Dan. They tried Mystic Dan on turf. Um,
Yeah,
the Stephen Foster was not good. And even though that's an 86 SOR, I don't think that was a very good field. Hit Show, we at least know what Hit Show wants to do, which is stalk and try to get home. And, I think that this is going to be a contentious enough of a pace between Willie
yeah,
D and Prince of Power that you could get things perfectly for a hit show. I think Banishing's a cut below, so that's where I landed, and I like the price better as well.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, Oldie. I mean, and the one thing also, you look at Hit Show, won 10 of 20 races. Brad Cox puts him in just perfect spots. You look at Mystic Dan,
Yep.
4 of 15, not winning recently. They, for some reason, wanted to run in the million, right? Ran okay. I mean, obviously, Mystic Dan's turned out to be an okay horse, but I was against here as the favorite. I'm playing against Mystic Dan. I'm with you on Hit Show though. I like the price. I bet we get 3-1. It's gonna be right around there. All right. So we're the same again on top. Where'd you go underneath?
I did go with Mystic Dan in second. Mystic Dan does love Churchill. I think Irad's going to ride. No, Irad's already riding. Pratt's going to ride. I think it is.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, I didn't like Mystic Dan to win, but I think Mystic Dan could finish second here and should finish second.
All
What
right.
about you? Where did you go?
I actually I'm just gonna stick with the two here. Although I'd have this as a confidence pick for Hit Show to win this race. You know, I think the 5, 6, or 7 all can run underneath, but on top, I would be pretty strong on the two horse here from a win standpoint. Um, so I will leave it at that for me on this race. You had 2, 5, and who was your third pick?
I had Willie D, who didn't break in the Charlestown Classic quick enough to get the lead. Definitely, I feel like needs the lead here for Maker.
Yeah.
But if Prince of Power were to break slow or just not show its usual speed because the horse is cheap, Willie D might have a shot here to get away on the front end. So Scotty Longshot Willie D was my third pick.
Yeah, Louis rides. They're going to show a lot of speed. That's why I like the two a lot. I think there is, and you had mentioned this, Oldy. I think there will be a contentious pace up front, and that's why I like Tit Show so much. I think it's going to sit just a dream trip. All right, that's it for Churchill Downs on Saturday, Oldie. Now we're going to jump back over to Gulfstream Park. It's just a stakes race, the Leinster Hollywood Beach Stakes, race number 9 at Gulfstream. 2-year-olds sprinting 5 on the turf, hopefully, Oldie.
Yeah.
They are rarely on the turf at Gulfstream this time of year. It's, I think, been a handful of races in a month. There is a lot of speed. The Gulfstream Park turf course has a 73-foot rail listed, Oldie, which will help the speed. You have Linaloo, who shows up here with Monster. They both look tough to me, Oldie. The 8 with the double arrow shows to be closing, wins the race sim. But what do you think here?
I like Linaloo on top here. As much as I wanted to like Monster, I just think Linaloo might be a little better here and isn't reliant on having the lead, even though it's fast. And, I like that flexibility a little bit. Being Cone's much better off the second off the layoff than first off the layoff as well. And the horse, seems to be working well since coming out of Ascot. So I just thought maybe this is Being Cone's talented horse here.
Yeah, I mean he has quite a few. This is probably one of the nicest ones. I would agree with you, Oldie. I mean 1, 3 of 4. I had second. I actually put Monster on top for D'Angelo and Zayas, both currently leading at the Sunshine Meet. Jose leading trainer just a little bit over Safi, and then as I mentioned earlier, Edgar has one more win than Miguel Vasquez, but it's all about the speed here. I know in the Skidmore, that was 5.5, didn't run. This horse, in my opinion, Oldie clearly probably wants 5 versus 5.5. The post is a little bit brutal but I think with all that speed and the turf GSR, I think we'll be absolutely fine. And I'm also probably counting on some scratches. So it wouldn't surprise me, Oldy, to see D'Angelo. I know he has the 5 here coming off the Tapita and a horse like the 4. Also, I don't think for Plaza and Reyes, doesn't necessarily probably want the turf. Depending on the weather, I think it'll be a little bit interesting what happens. But I had Monster on top and put Lenaloo second. Where'd you go underneath?
Side Monster in third. I actually went with Squire, the other being cone, here in second in case this melts.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
thought Squire would have a shot if this came apart coming from off the pace. There are some really, really big works too on
Mm-hmm.
Squire. Also second off the layoff too.
Yeah, no,
And
I had this horse third. I agree.
I will say if this does come off the turf, Timeless Victory would be where I would go, the 4 that you mentioned.
Yeah, yeah. I would have guessed we get some scratches here if it stays on the turf, and that's why I think both those outside horses are going to be tough. But and I agree with you on the 7. If the pace stops up front, the 7's going to run a big race at a price 15-1 on the EE morning line. But it has run some nice races and ran one of the best races 2 back. They were in the Royal Palm Juvenile there and ran well as the favorite, but lost last out. They're on the dirt. They get back to the turf. Probably what he wants to do. All right. I'm 987 Monster on top. You got Lenaloo on top. Only one on Saturday, Oldie at Gulfstream. Only one stakes race there. So now we're going to go all the way north up to Maryland at Laurel Park. They also have 2-year-old stakes. They have 2 of them, Oldie. I honestly thought that these Laurel races were probably some of the tougher races we looked at. They're going 8.5 on the turf, big fields. I was looking for upsets here. We had a little bit of chalk in those earlier stakes races, but I thought we might find some prices here in the next couple. I did cut the 7, and we won't add the 8 since it's a main track only. We'll watch the race sim. Looks to be a potential contentious pace, but not necessarily a lot of speed, Oldie, from the pace number. And that was what made it a little bit tricky for me. I wasn't sure. The 11 obviously probably going to be the favorite from out there. Does look to be the fastest horse probably. But there's going to be, I felt like a lot at the first second call that we're going to be battling up for the lead.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that. I was looking at it as more, I thought the 10 would be up on the lead. And,
Yeah.
the 11 and 4 could rate so that they're likely to rate. So I landed with the 11 Sunrise on top for Todd Pletcher. I think goes off as the favorite. I don't think you're going to get 9-2 there.
Yeah, no, that's guarantee you that's not happening.
Top win, second pick. It has ran really well at Saratoga at 8.5. I feel like even though this is a 66 SOR, I don't necessarily think that this is a less talented field than that maiden race at Saratoga. So, it probably is just going to look to get right off the 6. And I like the outside post here from this position.
Yeah, I had Sunrise second. I put a bomber on top, Oli, and it's the closer. It's the 6 horse. With Mr. Elliott, young and having an outstanding, was apprentice for a bit, just riding really well. He rides here from McPeak, so I'm curious to talk to our good buddy Jake. One first time out in a wide open race. I mean, I just think there's a lot of speed here. And I think gonna sit just a great trip, be flying late. I would 100% be using this horse in verticals. You know, maybe 6-11, 11-6.
Sure.
Again, I had the 11 second because I do think the 11 is going to be tough. But I mean, ran really well when they got to the turf last out. Oldie, was way back. You look here, didn't necessarily probably have the greatest trip. I didn't get a chance to really look, but broke okay, but was on the rail. I'm assuming probably got shuffled, and doesn't necessarily show a ton of speed, obviously from a pace perspective, but if they can get it be a little more forwardly placed, and with that contentious pace can become flying, and again, going to be a big price. I think has a great chance to hit the board in exotics, but I put on top. I'm going to look for an upset here. Hopefully, we're probably going to get right around 15-1. It looks like. And
All
then
right.
you went with the 4 second. Talk to me about the 4.
Stretching out to 8.5 for Grand Motion, but won pretty easily at Colonial at 5.5.
Yeah.
Horse can rate. I'm not sure we'll show as much speed as we're expecting here, just because the horse can rate. I also see some pretty nice works on this horse, so I'm wondering maybe this horse is very well meant here as well. Proton,
Mm-hmm.
the 4 horse, second best win percentage here. GSR does go down on the stretch out, but I think the horse will be fine, and could really put together a nice effort here at Laurel.
All right. That's the Laurel Futurity, the 2-year-old boys. You are 11-4. I am 6-11. We're going to jump to the 10th, which is for the fillies, the Salima Stakes. And big field, 11 of them. Oscar's Encore for sure going to be showing speed, Oldie. And,
Yeah.
might have a little bit of pace pressure, but this horse is quick and is going to be dangerous up front going 8.5. Definitely a player is the second pick. Ultimate Love, you can see the definite closer here, Oldie. You can see at the top of the stretch really coming. Obviously, the 4 with the double blue arrow closing, but the 6 gives it up late to the 3. What do you think?
I love a 3-6 exacta here, but I think the 3, until proven otherwise, it seems to be better than this group. Granted, the 6 is coming out of Kentucky Downs, which is why I don't like that horse on top, because the horses coming out of Kentucky Downs don't win that next race. So I landed with the 3 on top, Ultimate Love, who's undefeated and lightly raced.
Yeah, I would agree. Trombetta won 2 in a row, and Oli has won easy, right? I mean, won by nearly 7 lengths here, won first time out. They knew they had a good one. I think it was a little bit crazy. Neither time was the favorite, and this horse romped in both races. And it kind of made me laugh, Oldie, because I'm like, is this horse not going to be the favorite again? It hasn't been in the favorite in both those races. And showing 3-1 on the E morning line, maybe it'll end up being a lukewarm favorite. But I'm with you. I thought the 3 horse was going to be tough. That's where I went on top. So you want to talk about your underneath?
Sure. So I went with the 6 in second, but underneath in third, I went with the Pletcher Maiden Celebrity Warrior. It's a Irish bred, owned by Rapoli, being shipped in here, barely missed first time out. Likely to move forward. Pletcher doesn't win with a lot of firsters on the turf, so the fact that this horse ran that well first time out on the turf makes me think that this horse might be very well meant here.
Yeah, yeah. Comes back, as you said, as a maiden, and right back at 8.5, and they obviously debuted at Saratoga, so they knew they had something. Ran a big race at nearly 9-1. All right, you're 361. I am 356. We'll talk about Sweet Little Leela. So Oldy, this is for Brittany. It's also a maiden, so I'm taking a maiden underneath as well. I had a note on this horse though, and so I loved seeing it come back, and it's going to be a monster price. I would love this horse. You talked about a 3-6 exacta. I could see the 5 running a big race into the exacta, the try as well. Had a really brutal trip last out, Oldie, and still ended up nearly winning the race at 4-1. That was a 48. So, I had a note to watch next out. I had hoped that they were going to maybe show up in a maiden special race, but they obviously jump right into stakes company because they know they have something nice. I mean, she's a good one. Caramanos rides for Brittany, but going to be a big price. I think has a great chance to hit the board as well.
All
All
right.
right. That's race 10. We've been on the East Coast so far, Oldie, and now we're going to jump all the way over to the West Coast because we have our good friends at Santa Anita. They open up tomorrow, Oldie, I believe.
Yes, correct.
Santa Anita. We're going to jump to Saturday. No stakes racing tomorrow there, but they do have on Saturday 1, 2, 5, if I remember correctly. We're starting with the City of Hope Mile, $200,000 purse. They're going 8, Oldie. Johannes shows up here. Cabo Spirit going to be speed of the race, but
Yeah.
Johannes is a nice horse, Oldie. And, I think Cabo Spirit probably going to run a big race. I'm not sure can wire the field, though. I do think we'll run a big race. I think it has a shot, but I think somebody going to catch Cabo Spirit. The race sim has the 3 and the 5 both sitting the trip. The 3 horse ends up winning the race just slightly, but what do you think?
I think that Johannes is a cut above this group.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
just been racing back against better. I think Cabo Spirit will do what Cabo Spirit typically does, which is get caught. But I think there's a good chance that you get a 3-6 exacta there.
Yeah, I would have Johannes as a confidence pick, Oldie. I thought that you look here, 70s, mid 70s, low 70s, running really well. Didn't run well at the 4-star Dave, but yeah, team maybe wanted that race, Oldie. I mean, they shipped all the way over the
Yeah.
country, and Rospoli actually was out there to ride at Saratoga. Comes right back. They find easier. Was the favorite that day too, Oldie, and look here, bumped at the start, rank. I mean, it was just a brutal race. So you forgive that effort, right? And he finds, has hit the board in 10 of 14. You can toss that effort, the 82 there in the Breeders' Cup Mile, nearly won Oldie at 4-1. I mean, I just think I just think better than these horses, honestly. Can Cabo Spirit get loose? I don't know. I don't think so. I think Johannes gonna sit the trip and catch Cabo Spirit. So I'm all in on the 3. You are 3-6-4. You want to talk about Cabo Spirit or Final Boss?
No, I mean, not really Final Boss. Cabo Spirit, I was in third, the 1,
Oh,
Zio
sorry.
Joe.
Okay.
For Doug O'Neill, I think sits an in-between trip here and maybe gets first run if Cabo Spirit starts slowing down. They were in the Del Mar Mile together and they didn't finish that far apart. And you're getting a price on Zio Joe as well. But, like I said, Cabo Spirit speed only has one way to go. I'm not sure Final Boss is all that fast, but I think Zio Joe might have an interesting look here.
Yeah, hasn't won of late, but gonna be a good price. You can see he's run some great races off the pace. For me, I'd see this horse big potential, maybe hit the board in the try. Gonna be a nice price too. So, Key Johannes on top for me, and maybe you can find that horse underneath.
Yeah.
And trifecta could be good if you can get the one up in the to hit second or third. So, all right. You're 361. I'm on the three. We're gonna keep rolling, Oldy. We are gonna go to skip race 5. That's the main special. We're just looking at stakes race, so we'll jump to the
Yeah.
6th at Santa Anita, the John Henry Turf Champion Stakes. We'll run the race sim. I thought this was a nice competitive race.
Yeah.
Honestly, Oldie, for a while, I thought the Balladeer might win this race, but I'm not sure that can happen. But I do think Balladeer can run a big race on the front end. Uh, I don't know. I'm going to let you talk about Balladeer. I think that horse has a big shot, though, at a big price with the pace square. On the race sim as the one closing, as well as Gold Phoenix, the 7.
Yeah.
But what do you think?
I think Balladeer needs the lead. This was one of my upsets of the day.
Yeah.
I think we'll get it. And, I like the shorten up, even though it didn't really run the second half of that race at Kentucky Downs. The shorten up to 10 furlongs here, I think it will be solid. Last time the horse ran 10 furlongs, it nearly went gate to wire. And its best efforts have been at 10 furlongs. Because if you look at the previous year, same thing at 10 furlongs. So at Santa Anita, I just don't see a lot of other speed here to chase this horse down. It's a 17-point pace advantage here, which definitely qualifies as lone pace. And, I think that there's a possibility at 15, 20 to 1 that this horse could blow up the board.
I totally agree with you. You and I saw this race. Many of these really, really similar today. I Fraser got aboard, and I found that intriguing. Oldie, he has not been aboard, and you go all the way back here, and to your point, won this race back in 2023. Back then, it was on October 1st, so it was a little bit later into October, but ended up getting a really easy lead and hanging on. And I think to your point, the source could get a little bit of an easy lead. Might face some pressure was my biggest concern, and why I actually put the 2-horse second. I put Stay Hot on top, and for me, only it was like, am I gonna like Gold Phoenix or am I gonna like Stay Hot?
Mhm.
Rispoli for D'Amato, Mike Smith ride for Peter Urton. We talked about Fraser riding for Papa Padromo, but Stay Hot, Oldie had, raced at 11 last out, ended up running a huge race. I do think we'll have more pace to chase here. It has tactical speed. I know it did win on the lead at Lone Star, but clearly I don't think needs the lead. You can see back here at Santa Anita and Del Mar going 9 and 9 and 8.5, was able to come off the pace. Has hit the board in 12 of 16. Showed good ability at Santa Anita on the turf. They do stretch out, but cutting back from last out. But, has not run 10 furlongs, Oldie, but I don't think will be a problem for Stay Hot. Mike Smith rides for Mr. Urton, but that's where I went on top. But I like your top pick, long shot. Balladeer to upset could be a big price, and Fraser could try to take him all the way.
What's interesting is the last time both Balladeer and Gold Phoenix, who's 3-2 on the morning line, ran 10 furlongs. Balladeer finished ahead of Gold Phoenix.
Back here, and was that in 2024?
That was hold on. I may have messed that up here. Hold on. Yeah, I did mess that up. Sorry. Forget that I said that. Let's pretend like I didn't
No,
say
you're
that.
fine.
But
I mean, Gold. I mean, you got Gold Phoenix in third, so you go ahead
So,
and talk about Gold Phoenix.
no, so I've Gold Phoenix in second.
Oh, sorry, second.
Um,
Yes, yes.
yeah, but all these horses are money burners. I mean, Gold Phoenix did win at 11 furlongs last time out, beat Stay Hot, but by barely anything. They both have burnt a ton of money. They both don't really like to win. I mean, Stay Hot's last win came on the lead.
Yeah, yeah.
I just there was not a lot. I wasn't going to take a short price, but I think the 7 and 6 are the places to go underneath. I think they'll finish
Yeah.
strong.
Yeah. Both are gonna run on, I agree. But I got
Yeah.
the six. It was I was gonna decide between both of them. So it looks like Herman, good to see you. All right, Oldie. That's the six, the John Henry Turf. You are 2-7-6, Balladeer on top, and I'm 6-2. I to the whip. I mean Gold Phoenix. Well, I mean there's gonna be speed. Balladeer is always just quick out of the gate. So Gold Phoenix is gonna be flying late with Stay Hot.
For sure. And I just don't think Spycatcher wants any part of the E second pick wants any part of that distance.
Yeah, I don't think this horse has a shot. That was in my notes. So I'm with you there, Oldie. All right, that's the sixth. We're gonna skip race 7. That's not a stakes race. That's a starter optional claim. Looked like a tough race, honestly. But the eighth, we're going down the hill for the Eddie D. Grade 2, $200,000 purse. Always tough coming down the hill. The looks like a great race. Have I thought a few players the 3-2 morning line on first piece that was very interesting. I was just everybody else morning line kind of all over, but first piece, man, 3-2 Oldie off a 9-2 morning line. Reef runner gonna try to probably ride inside and save ground. Ends up winning the race sim over first piece. But what do you think? Where'd you land?
I landed on Nesso's Last Hurrah, the 2 horse, who I think is the speed of the race. I like the cutback here. Has a win at 6, couple wins at 6, and one last time out on the lead at 8 at Del Mar. I like the cutback. I think this horse has a big look here.
Nice play. I didn't really see this horse, but I never can argue with Hector Barrios on the turf. Yeah. I did think this was a tough race, though, so it doesn't surprise me that we kind of are, see it differently. I ended up putting a yellow card on top. Came out of that Del Mar effort, was on the rail. Oldy stalked the pace, nearly won 2 back in a 66, but got that allowance, non-winners of 2 restricted win last out for McCarthy. And obviously they knew it had a big shot because they came right back on the turf at Del Mar. They now stretch out. I think Willis did a good trip, doesn't need the lead. There is pace in front. You talked about the 2. There's other speed. And I just think sits a really, really good trip off the pace, gets to the, comes down the hill. Here, I don't believe, did this horse run down the hill once? No. It ran at Kentucky now in 6.5, but hasn't been down the hill, but I don't worry too much about that. I think McCarthy obviously knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Kamara rides, nice horse, lightly raced, 4-year-old colt. I thought had a big shot. Where'd you so you had the 2 on top. Where'd you go for your second pick?
I went with the 8 first piece for my second pick. Has a win going down the hill, as well as a win going longer. I think maybe 5 furlongs was too short there. Will need pace to run into for sure, though, with Mike Smith.
Wow, should get it though, right? I mean, I think there'll be some speed here.
I mean, that there should be, but we'll see. I mean, I don't know how fast Mucho del Oro actually is, and the horse has a poor braking tendency, which may help the other speed in this race.
Yeah.
But I thought that the rest of this race the picks had.
Yes, I'm with you. We both had Reef Runner. You can see on the bottom of the screen there. So I was 5-8-1 in a wide open race. We both have different horses on top. I do think the 8 first piece, obviously that 3-2 E Morning Lion, going to be a big player. And then Reef Runner, the one only for Fox.
Yeah.
I'm assuming Paco's not riding. I thought that I had saw he got suspended.
Yeah, he's suspended for 6 months.
Yeah, so he obviously won't be. They shipped out to Del Mar. We'll have a new jockey aboard for David Fox, but ended up winning back-to-back races and ended up being DQ'd there at Del Mar. And the one horse Oldy ends up winning the race sim, right, by a little over a length. So, might get overlooked, but I think has a huge shot versus this field. You can see, wasn't really winning these at 5, but then comes off the layoff Oldy and is just running really, really well. I think could continue here getting down the hill for the first time. All right, that's the Eddie D, Oldy. I'm 5-8-1. You are 2-8-1. We're gonna keep rolling at Santa Anita. We got 2 more, Oldy. The Goodwood Stakes up next, race 9. Oh man, the win percents, Oldy, were all over the place here. I thought this. I know you like a horse in this race, but I thought this race was competitive. But I'm curious to hear your opinion here because I could see why you like your horse a lot, and the Privmen and Full Serrano, both gonna show speed, I would expect, and looks like First Mission going to be try to get the sit the trip, get first jump at the stretch. Everybody else is predominantly backing up, and First Mission's just pulling away. Obviously, Full Serrano's right there hanging on. But what do you think?
I mean, the question for me on Full Serrano is the distance. The GSR drops 21 points, so I think First Mission's a single here, and First Mission wins the race and pretty easily.
Yeah. Came out of Oaklawn, won the handicap in that 74 SOR, or won the Oaklawn I'm assuming, maybe not handicap, but won that grade 2 in a 74 going 9 furlongs. I think this horse has a big shot, Oldie. I just, on the win percent, show this race so wide open, and I didn't like the First Mission loss of this race. That was my main problem, Oldie. So I don't know what happened. I mean, why did First Mission lose here? But maybe runs in just strong races and then can't come back and win a grade 3 that he was supposed to win.
Yeah, 8.5 might have been too short. That would be one of the reasons in my mind that it would be a potential excuse. Obviously, we know Paco's not riding there as well. But did beat Skippy in the Oaklawn handicap at 9 furlongs pretty handily. They ran well in the Stephen Foster against much better, and which we discussed a little bit earlier. Some of the other horses from the Stephen Foster. I just think this horse, unless somebody like Full Serrano can get the distance, I have trouble finding anybody else who I think can win.
Well, so I ended up putting Full Serrano on top because I saw the GSR drop, Oldie, and I don't know. I'm just assuming it's a small sample and also I like the JJ rides here, Oldie, because JJ got off both Bafferts, and both Bafferts are prices, but JJ decided to ride the 7, and but on GSR Plus, the 9 furlongs like an anomaly, right? And not that it's an anomaly, but it's down here with all these sprint races on the genetic strength rating. But the reason why I got over that is because, whether it's 8 or a mile 70 or 10 furlongs or 8.5, I mean, it really shouldn't be an issue. So it was more of like, well, it's a little bit of a volatile GSR grid. I felt like, why did why is the 9 furlong way down here? But I think when you look at Full Serrano, Oldie, I mean, has obviously run well. He ran really well 3 back in the Pacific Classic last
Yeah.
year. Now second off the long, fairly lengthy layoff, 10 months essentially. Um, Ran there on 9-1, comes back on about 3 weeks rest. That was just a prep race for this. I think we'll get the distance. I think it's going to be okay. But I did put the 4 second. But I didn't have as much confidence as first mission as you did, just because I mean, I thought Full Serrano was still a really nice horse. I mean, obviously won the dirt mile at 13-1 and then went on the shelf. But, I think ran just a monster race there. So then they take some time off and they're just coming back. I think can show up here. And then I ended up putting Nevada Beach as the other Baffert from Privman, who's a Justify, but an Omaha Beach in the 5. Might run a good race underneath for Bobby B. I'm not sure it could win. I'm with you that it might be the 7 or 4, but I do think the 5 are going to be a good price and maybe can run on. All right, Oldie. Anything else in Santa Anita race number 9?
That is all I have. I just had my confidence pick there.
All right. Race 10, the last on Saturday. Back down the hill for filly 3-year-olds, the John C. Harris. This might be the toughest race we cover all weekend. I did cut the 3, 7, and 10. Me so fancy on the outside. Kazaloo, I did think had a big look, but if you get around Kazaloo, Oldie, this race is wide open, in my opinion. Does run well there on the race sim. Showing speed, but wasn't on the lead, but takes over at the top of the stretch, and then everybody's coming, Oldie. Everybody,
Yep.
not the 2 and 5, but half what nearly 7/8 of the field is, and I did cut a few horses, but right there on the race sim, they're all going to be flying to try to catch the 6, who does hold on the race sim. But what do you think here?
Yeah, so I went with the 6 on top. Similar angle to the other down the hill race. This horse has a win down the hill, but also is cutting back in distance. And last time they used that, the horse was running at a mile, cut back to 6.5 and won. I know that's an angle going down the turf, and you kind of got the same thing here coming out of the Grade 1 Del Mar Oaks. At 9 furlongs, cutting back, you're got an E morning line angle. It's top win, top pick here. I like Castle a lot here, and top GSR too.
No, so I ended up landing on top. So maybe this isn't going to be one of the tougher races. And maybe it was just the race sim that kind of tricked me. But Baffert, and maybe this is just the nicest horse in the field, Oldie, and has speed, doesn't seem to need the lead. Ran really well 3 back on the lead, but then also sat off and ran a really good race. I would say 2 back going 8. Is Ben 6.5? Obviously, always like to see a horse win going down the hill, and Kazaloo has done it for Bobby B. So maybe isn't as tougher race. To the whip said Oldie that he or she moved the horse to avoid Eiffel, lost a head to her at Del Mar, and that's the 9 horse. And I actually thought that horse had a look.
Hmm.
I had that horse kind of as my third or fourth pick. But we're both have the 6 on top for Bobby B. Cassaloo, probably going to be the favorite.
Well,
Go
which
ahead.
horse was yours there? Because I'm reading this as to avoid Eiffel. So Eiffel's going to stay in. There's another horse coming out.
I think he's just saying that they didn't enter the horse would be my guess. Um, but maybe not. What to the whip? Is your horse still in the race and you're scratching? Is that what you're asking, Oldie?
Yeah, that's what I'm.
Oh, yeah, we'll have to see. But yeah, let us know to the whip who did you actually enter here, or did you just decide not to enter once you knew that Eiffel was running? Um, Oldie, where'd you go underneath?
Underneath, I
Where
went
your
with
second
the
pick?
same horse you did, which is the one warming. Same angle of shortening up for me, coming out of better races and shortening up going down the hill.
Yeah, those were a lot tougher, Oldie, right?
Yeah.
Oh, to the whip. That I thought that's what you're saying. They didn't enter Alti. Once they probably had heard the Eiffel was entering, they just didn't enter the grade 3 here. So
Okay.
good luck wherever you did end up entering. Um, yeah, Oldie, I was with you on Warming. I mean, those are big drops, right? 8 points from the Lake Placid over in Saratoga, and then 12 points there from the Grade 1 Belmont Oaks Invitational, going 9. They cut back to 6.5, and the Warming, she ran so well as a maiden Oldie first time out. And they obviously knew she had a lot of talent to enter that stakes race at the Big A after that win. I think she totally fits in a race like this. So I was with you. I was 6-1-9-8, and you are 6-1. And then what's your third pick?
At the 12 for Sadler, been down, hasn't been down the hill, has gone 6.5 flat, but has shown the ability to rate a little bit against similar. I thought could get the advantage of the outside post here because with the switch over, the outside post is a little bit of an advantage. And, so I thought this horse could sit a trap, have to see who the jockey ends up being.
Well, yeah, Paco was scheduled, but he's not going to ride there. So, all right. And then I had the 9 or the 8 as my kind of long shots underneath. JJ riding the 8 gets to 6.5 for the first time. This horse really gonna have to improve. And Eiffel won first out and burned money, so maybe it can improve. But I like the 6-1 like you. You and I saw the top 2 picks there. I think the others are probably kind of running underneath, but it does show fairly wide open. But now maybe that gives me a little more confidence, Oldie, that the 6-1 could be tough here because you and I see that the same way. All right. We are cruising through. We got 2 more. Not on Saturday, though, Oldie. A little bit of Sunday coverage this week with our good friends out at Remington Park. They have a great stakes schedule. We're not going to cover them all. We're just going to cover the last 2. The Remington Park Oaks, and then we'll talk about the 10th, the Derby. And let's watch the race sim in the Oaks here. I kind of thought this was maybe a 2-horse race, Oldie. Not that some of these others may not run a big race, but to me, I thought that the picks probably had this race. The 4 and 5, both up front, 1-1, aka even money on Lemon Zest, and so there she was. Not quite going to be as short of a price. The 4 does win the race sim, but where'd you land?
I landed on So There She Was. Um, the horse did almost win a grade 3 against 70 SORs, getting relief here, and has shown it can rate in its maiden breaking performance. So I don't think needs the lead. I thought maybe you get 2-1, 5-2 here, and I would take that. And so there she was.
Yeah, I saw it the other way, but I honestly cannot argue with you because I could see this really go either way in the ninth on Sunday in the Oaks, the 4, the 5. I ended up putting lemon zest on top. Luis Saez comes over to ride here, which I love to see. Decides to fly over to Oklahoma. Godolphin, homebred, winning easy, verse much easier though, Oldy, but kind of going through conditions, taking it easy, won the maiden special, and then won a allowance race, both in Kentucky. And then they ship over to Oklahoma. One, showed the ability to rate 2 back, was on the lead last out, and won. But I don't know, kind of coin flip for me. 4-5, 5-4, but I know the 4 probably gonna be the favorite, but that's where I went on top.
Yeah, I mean, I have the 4 in second. I mean, I have questions just, how good is the 4 just because it hasn't faced anything and it's lightly raced,
Yeah,
but we'll see.
yeah.
And the other one that I thought had a little bit of a look was the 3 Running and Gunning for Asmussen. Was in the Black Eyed Susan, has been in a couple grade 2s, but hasn't run. Is going to have to improve, but the Sunland Park Oaks effort was pretty good. And if it runs back to that, does get Jose aboard as well. And Jose and Asmussen have been a really tough pair. So I did pay attention to that as well here.
All right. You are 5, 4, and you said 3, Oldie? 5,
5,
4,
4, 3,
3.
yes.
And I am 4, 5. I think it's a 2-horse race. That's the Remington Park Oaks Sunday evening, race number 9. Great Sunday stakes. All right, Oldie, we got one more. I was hoping we were going to see our good friend Cole battle, but
Yeah.
you have to tell me. I didn't even get it. All I saw was the headline. Did they scratch or what happened?
Yeah. So he had given him 30 days off and didn't think that he was ready for a race yet
Ah,
based on
okay.
the works. No, nothing wrong with him. We'll see him probably later in like the Clark or something like that in the season.
All right. Well, the 8, I also scratched the 3 out of there. Let's watch the race sim. I Once you told me that, Oldie, I was like, well, I don't necessarily love a long shot in this race, so we'll have to see where what ends up happening. The 4-horse Bracket Buster and Take Charge Tom might show some speed. The 1 didn't show speed on the race sim necessarily, but does have the highest pace figure, Oldie. Mr. Omaha. Um,
Feel like I want to start yelling like Peyton Manning and start
yeah,
yelling
yeah,
Omaha,
right.
Omaha.
Yeah, yeah. I love it. All right. The 4 and 5, both there. Publisher as well as Bracket Buster. Publisher Oli just never wins. And this horse, I felt like everybody loved this horse and it was gonna get its win. It was gonna win. And it has struggled so much. But maybe finds the right spot in the 400,000 Oklahoma Derby. What do you think here?
So don't like. Not enough needs pace to run into. We went through the whole thing where they were going to put blinkers on the horse and it was going to be closer and it wasn't. It just has no speed.
I know.
You
I
know,
know.
for isn't the favorite, so I guess you wouldn't qualify as Burns money. Bracket Buster, I feel similarly about like Burns money. So I ended up on the 2 Iron Dome for Asmussen with Jose aboard. One of the other things I'm paying attention to here is that Jose's aboard Iron Dome and not Publisher. And he's putting Eric aboard Publisher.
Yeah. I think this horse obviously going to have to improve. It's a New York State bred, right, Oldie?
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's 3 nice wins in a row. Jose's been aboard on all 3. Obviously was able to get this horse to improve. I mean, look how, Eric was riding, and then Jose gets aboard, and the horse, hits the board and then wins by 10, 11, and nearly 7 lengths, Oldie.
So that was exactly, and I took the sign that Eric's aboard Publisher and not Jose. That was that Iron Dome was the Asmussen to be on here.
Yeah, I had that horse second. I ended up putting Bracket Buster on top. Wins the race sim. If we took the 8 out of the race because Cole Battle scratched. 4 does win the race sim. 2-1 on the morning line. I mean, I think it's to the lead here, Oldie, and might just be gone. I know there might be some other speed, but I don't know if anybody's really as classy as this horse. And, if it does set up for anybody, that's why I also like Iron Dome. That's the horse that probably is going to get a good trip. And Jose has obviously really improved. But I thought Bracket Buster finds much easier here, Oldie. Has run some nice races. And I think, just gets to a bit of an easier spot. Last time was on the lead, back at Keeneland, nearly won. Then they won on the lead in the slop at Monmouth. And then here really couldn't get the lead and got pressed. I don't see that. I think Bracket Buster is just from a class and speed, probably has a good chance to take him gate to wire. But if can't, then the 2 I do think sits a good trip. Where'd you go for your second pick?
I went with Bracket Buster, I believe. Hold on.
No, yeah, you did. I just
yeah,
looked.
and then my third pick, I went with the 7 horse Colonel York for Mindy Willis with Stuart Elliott aboard. The local horse that's just been killing it there. I have distance questions. I'm not sure we'll get the distance. The horse has shown tactical speed in the past, so I don't think we'll be as far back as the pace number thinks. And, it was an interesting price.
Yeah. All right. My long shot went to Mr. Omaha on the inside. But Bracket Buster for me, Iron Dome second. I think could be a nice little exacta there. Not sure. I think we'll get an okay price. Maybe get 4 or 5-1. All right. I am 4-1. You are 2-4-7. That's the Remington, Oklahoma Derby. 3-year-olds. That's all we got. That's all the great stakes coverage. Alfredo, good to see you. Thanks for stopping by. I saw your show earlier. You and Herman are crushing it. If anybody wants to check them out, they've been doing daily shows in Espanol every day on the EquinEdge YouTube channel. You can find them. Great coverage. Oldy, it's been fun. Let's talk Keeneland before we go. I will let you close this out there with Keeneland, and then go ahead.
I'm going to close this out with a 9-second video here.
I love it. Let's see it.
So, again, the Keeneland promo. Scan the QR code in the corner, guys, and it'll take you right to the promo, $7.95. Right there, short and sweet. Hit the like on the way out and the subscribe. Check out Alfredo's show and Herman's show tomorrow. And thank you, everybody, and happy horse playing.
Go Anners.
Go Cubs.